the reason why both have taken the game, or part of the reason why we've taken the game to Firhill is obviously it's closer to the city centre as well, and you're hopeful fans that maybe want to go between both games. That makes it easier for them to do that, and absolutely right. I think the players would love for any sort of backing we could get for that game.
The whole experience of going there to play Ajax and the game being so close in the end and being very unlucky not to get a result there. Was there one thing in particular that was a big learning takeaway for yourself in terms of that, in terms of the whole experience of being over and seeing the training centre, for example?
Well, I think everybody would know that what Ajax have got is in terms of the facility and the closeness to the stadiums. It's a nice place to go and play football. From our point of view, looking at the game in isolation, probably one of the biggest things, and we spoke to the players about it before the game and then again at half time, was go and believe in yourself, go and back yourself. And we know they're good players, we know they're a good team. They've been renowned for producing players for a number of years, but I think we've also got to believe in ourselves at the same time. I think the biggest difference of both halves was absolutely that in the second half it was almost like the shackles come off and we actually had a go at it. We got closer to Ajax when they had possession and made it much more difficult for them to play, which in turn gave us much more time in the ball, and in turn obviously some opportunities off the back of that as well. So I think from the outset from this game it's absolutely about believing yourself a little bit more. When we don't have the ball it's fine, but when you can, you get closer to Napoli as you possibly can.
The players did ever so well last week in Amsterdam. In terms of this challenge, what are you expecting from Napoli?
Well, I think it's a bit different. When you look at the Ajax game, we had some information on them. We had some footage, but it wasn't all the players that played in the game. There was a bit of difference between some of them because some are playing for the Ajax young team and some for the under 18s. So it was a little bit of a mixture. The difference this time is absolutely we've managed to get eyes onto the game that Napoli and Liverpool played. So we've looked at the way Napoli play and we looked at how we can set up to defend against that, but more importantly, how we set ourselves up to go and try and make good of the possession that we have and expose and exploit the spaces that we think we can create off the back of the movement that we believe at our front line particularly can bring to them.
And can I ask about Alex Lowry as well in terms of how he's progressing from his injury sustained?
As far as I'm aware, he's progressing well. He's obviously not back on the football pitch yet and not in contention for any sort of game time at the moment, but any time I've seen him or had conversations about him, it seems to be quite positive just now. Yeah, I think when he got the initial feedback that the injury maybe wasn't going to be as long term as what was initially thought, I think naturally Alex feels a little bit better about that because he can see a little bit of brightness ahead. But in terms of that, I don't have any more on that, Chris, at the moment that I'm able to share just now.
What can you take from best practice at the other teams that you're playing, and what do you hope to learn you can maybe then take into future seasons and future ways of working?
Well, I think you're right. The best v best sort of philosophy that we've had in a number of years now has been important to us, but I think this is a bit different because it is that, but it's a more competitive environment. It's not just a friendly game against one of the top sides. It is against the top side, but a kind of mini league programme, which is excellent for the lads because it's finding a way to perform. It's finding a way to try and get a positive result at the end of that as well, and hopefully at the end of that you maybe find an opportunity into the knockout stages of the competition. But from us at the moment, you have three different types of opposition. Last week Ajax are very much possession based team who will, where they possibly can, but kind of put you into submission in terms of the amount of time they want to spend in the ball. But that's where, as I said just earlier, we have to try and make sure when a team's like that, it's not to be impatient. It's just understand that we'll get controlled moments when we don't have the ball, but it's to find a way to get pressure. And when you do that, you have to go after them as a group, not as individuals, because you will get picked off. Napoli might be a little bit different. They look like they play more of a front two. The Italian had a 3-4-3 or kind of back five into a 3 and a 2, so it looks potentially it could be like that from all the footage that we've seen. So we'll prepare for that, and that might challenge us a little bit in different ways, but we've prepared for that, and hopefully the plan that we put in place will come across within the game.
You've mentioned there about the lack of footage. Has this been a little bit of a learning curve and a bit of a challenge for yourself and your coaching team?
I think the footage, you do get footage, Mark, but the point I was making was more that, similar to ourselves as well, when you bring your 19s group together to compete in this competition, it can be a combination of a couple of squads, because obviously we don't run with an under 19s group, we run with 18s, and Ajax, some of their guys are playing up towards their Ajax young team, so that isn't all the ones that are playing in these games as well, so it's almost a bringing together of maybe some players from different squads, but it doesn't necessarily change the style of what they play. Most teams at this level will have a general consistency between how their first team, how their academy plays. Not everyone, but most of them do, so you can understand what it might look like, and especially when you get some footage. I guess now when the competition has started, the footage will become more readily available for us, and we can look at that. I've always said before, the footage is great to give you an indication of what it might look like, but it certainly doesn't give you a guarantee. And the way we would always use that footage is to try and we make it about us. Here's what they do, but here's how we will go against that, either when we don't have the ball, or here's how we will go and make good of our possession when we do have the ball, to try and hurt how they shape up, how we might move them in areas of the pitch they don't want to be. So we always try and turn it around to us, but I think it's good for the players to have a little bit of a snapshot of what they might come up against. But you have to adapt, and if I look back to the Ajax game, we did adapt during the first half, because the way we thought we might press in the first half, we had to change, and it's good for the players to actually feel that during the game and recognise that sometimes we might have a plan and that might have to change, and that was the case last week.
The early nature of the goal and then the intensity with which they then push seemed to sort of put your boys onto a bit of a back foot, but they're covered well in the second half. Was that a little bit of magic from yourself, or was that group spirit coming through?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a bit of magic for myself. No, I think that's about. I think you've seen, the second goal that we lost came at a time we've just hit the post. I do think on the back of that phase we should have had a free kick at the edge of the Ajax box. We didn't get, and within 3 passes it's 2-0. So it just shows you how quickly you can be punished when maybe something doesn't go quite right for you, you're not prepared to defend. I think a key moment for us was certainly getting the goal just before half time, because that gives the boys a little bit of belief. And then at half time was just really reinforcing the positives of when we actually started to believe in ourselves when we had the ball, the success and how we can actually create during the game when we have the ball, but also about just being more aggressive. And I don't mean by going to kind of get really close to somebody and make it different. I just mean by the fact that we can be closer to them. We don't have to stand off and watch how they play. It's looking for triggers, for moments to actually get closer to them and backing your mate up when that opportunity came. And I thought the second half, our front line were much better at getting closer to the back line when they were trying to build. I thought our middle line could then back that up, and I thought we get many more regains off the back of that. And I think speaking to the players, some of that was maybe a little bit of nervousness because they're going into a competition that they've not been used to. And you spoke to one or two of them. I mean, we've got some guys in there born 2006, 2005, and we can't just expect them to think that's normal to get into that level of game. They had a little bit of nerves, but I think at half time when they realised that they could actually go and be who they are and back themselves and trust themselves, I thought they looked a little bit freer in the second half, and I think that helped the performance levels for sure.
Obviously, just looking at the under-18s that you chose for the squad, how difficult is it to obviously select 2 or 3 or 4 guys from the group, given how well they've played recently?
I think selecting any players for these competitions, some are a little bit easier than others because they're at different stages of their journey, but I think we absolutely have under-18 players who are pushing to try and get closer to the squad, if not the starting team. Obviously you've seen there that Paul Niso started the game. Jacob Pazikas, we forget, is still actually under-18 as well, although he's spending most of his time with the B team this season. Greg Allen came onto the pitch as an under-18 player as well, Archie Stevens, and off the back of that you've got some guys on the bench and maybe ones that have just missed out. So any player that's not involved will naturally feel a little bit disappointed, but I would hope what they would see is that the ones that have come in, that opportunities might open up if they continue to perform at the levels that they can, and you never know why doors open up. And we have the same message for the lads at the B team squad, where they're just trying to aspire to get closer to the first team, and you never know when those doors open, so all they can do is to continue to push their own levels to make sure when the opportunity does come, then they're ready to take it. So it's a consistent flow of message that we would try and push to the ones that are not quite there, but hopefully still have that sight and when they look further ahead that it could still happen.
How difficult is it to tell some of the guys that they can't be in the squad because of the rules and regulations? Is that really difficult to sort of tell the lads that? Yeah, very difficult. And you think back to when you're a player and you're always receiving sort of disappointment or whatever it may be. It's never easy to deliver either when you're telling somebody that you think could be involved in the group, and for whatever reason that may be, unfortunately they may have to be left out. So all we can ever do in those moments is just be honest. Sometimes it might be that we just believe that at this stage maybe somebody is more deserving of playing or starting or being on the bench. Sometimes it might just unfortunately be because the rules and regulations that you're governed by within the competition. That's maybe sometimes unfortunately that's the way it sits. So it's not easy, and it's never easy for the player to receive that's for sure, but we always just try and make sure that we can be honest, and hopefully at some point during the competition 1 or 2 might get opportunities that they might miss out in other situations.